This means it's the last day for people to submit their 2021 income tax returns. The IRS website encourages people who haven't filed their taxes yet to do so electronically to get it in on time. It is possible to ask for an extension to file your taxes and get help from the IRS. According to Forbes, about 7 million Americans don't file their taxes on time. As the war in Ukraine wages on, large cities there continue to try to fight off Russian forces. The city of Mariupol looks to make a last-ditch effort to force the Russians out and stay under the control of Ukraine. A Russian focal point for attacking Mariupol is the Azovstal iron and steel plant. A federal judge in Florida today waived off the U.S. mask mandate for planes and other transportation. The judge stated that the CDC failed to justify its decision, did not follow proper rulemaking, and it exceeded the authority of U.S. health officials. The airlines have lobbied for months to get rid of the mask mandate for travel. It looks as though China will continue to extend their zero-COVID policy, which is put back into place since late March. In Shanghai, they reported 3 deaths, the first time since the lockdown. The 3 deaths were people between the ages of 89 to 91 and were unvaccinated. Those are some of the top stories in the news.
Earth Week 2022 is here. USC kicked off today by announcing sustainability goals under a new project called Assignment Earth. Really creative name. President Folt announced a new eco-friendly initiative such as plans to install 200 clean stream recycling stations. The next 7 days around here will be filled with events to celebrate Earth Week. Patrick Warren has more on the story.
The first major announcement of the week came from USC President Folt, who said that the university will be eliminating single-use plastic beverage bottles in favor of more environmentally friendly packaging, a step she says is long overdue.
USC Hospitality purchases, for example, around 15,000 bottles weekly, no longer going into the environment. And plastic makes up 18% of the total landfill in the United States. So this is a big step forward in realizing our zero waste goal.
Along with this initiative, Folt pledged that USC will be carbon neutral by 2025. In a university-wide email, Chief Sustainability Officer Mick Dalrymple said that this lofty goal will be achieved through increased energy efficiency, solar power, electrified transportation, and absorbing carbon emissions. In a video attached to the email, Folt spoke on the university's commitment to the environment.
It is a big assignment, but we're all in.
USC will host over 30 events during Earth Week, from solar yoga to sustainability workshops. A schedule of the events can be found on sustainability.usc.edu. Former Solicitor of the U.S. Department of the Interior John Leshy was on campus today to launch Earth Week as a keynote speaker. Leshy spoke about his book, Our Common Ground, A History of America's Public Lands.
The book is a straightforward political history, starting in 1776, of how the United States, over that long period of time, came to end up right now with more than 600 million acres in national ownership, managed largely for conservation.
Leshy talked about the threat that climate change imposes on national parks.
The New York Times headline not long ago said, "Your children's Yellowstone will be radically different because of climate change." Public lands contain important reservoirs of biodiversity, much of it threatened by what we're calling the 6th great extinction in the planet's history.
The event was hosted by the Gould Energy and Environmental Law Society. Member Chan Than, and second-year student at USC Gould School of Law, spoke on the goals of both the club and Earth Week.
There's not a huge curriculum offered here at Gould for that subject matter, so we're basically trying to expose as much as possible to the school actual practitioners, or in this case, just an expert from another school, and just give them that exposure, let them know what the field is like and what the issues are.
USC environmental policy changes are critical and couldn't have come at a better time. Scientists continuously warn of the current and upcoming dangers of climate change. For Annenberg Media, I'm Patrick Warren.
We'll have more on USC Earth Week later in our program.
LA has a trash problem. The county has been trying for years to find a solution on how to clean up the streets. Some residents are coming together to tackle the issue. As Esther Quintanilla reports, one organization has taken its mission further by including social activities in their community cleanups.
Ooh, a Band-Aid. Yum.
This is the sound of trash getting picked up in Woodland Hills by the community cleanup crew Overdue. The group got started when Max Sawaki was out walking his dog.
he almost stepped on a needle, and I invited my roommate to pick up trash, and that's how we started.
It's something that Max did, just on his daily walks.
That's Igor Leonti, Sawaki's roommate.
It kind of picked up and it snowballed from there, and it was all organic growth.
Overdue has cleaned up all around LA County since 2020. According to its website, they've collected over 55,000 pounds of trash from neighborhoods, lakes, and hiking trails. Kerjan Lee from LA County Public Works says the county produces about 30 million tons of trash each year.
On average, every resident of LA County, all 10 million residents, are sending about 5 pounds of trash or waste to landfills on a daily basis.
The county is working toward reducing how much waste is being sent to landfills.
The county has a vision for its communities, for them to be vibrant and waste conscious. So to achieve this vision, we've set a goal of diverting 95% of waste from landfills by 2045.
Trash is still a problem that Angelinos have to deal with every day until then. Organizations like Overdue have popped up all over the San Fernando Valley. People are looking for ways to help keep their streets clean. There are a few governmentally funded programs that pick up trash in LA. The Department of Public Works and LA Sanitation will pick up large garbage and clean up illegal dumping, but the litter scattered on sidewalks is often overlooked.
The services of the cities and the county are essentially the last line of defense on the streets. When people don't dispose of their waste properly, either by littering or just it maybe blows out of their trash cans, then the county and cities come in to pick up that waste. And we call them the 4 R's, and you might remember them from school. The 4 R's are reduce, reuse, recycle, and rethink.
Taking responsibility is something Leonti thinks should be put on everyone in the community.
It falls on all of us, each individual that consumes and produces waste. It falls on us to clean up after ourselves.
What is that? No. What is that?
Wait, guys, we found a dead bird.
One time there was a finger, a human finger.
Sammy Evans joined Overdue about a year ago after seeing them pass through her neighborhood.
And I was like, who are these people who are doing such amazing things in my neighborhood? And I was like, I have to go. So I went and I picked up trash, and then they all talked to me afterwards. And I'm like, God, they're so cool. I finally found my people in the valley.
Evans appreciates that Overdue is making a difference in her community.
It's just lovely to have them here and to have built a community of people who are like really trying to see the beauty in our own community and like how we can make it better.
Aw, buried underneath in the big problem. A bean?
A meme.
Oh, is that from What Do You Meme? Like the card game?
Oh, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey.
20 to 30-year-olds get together not just to clean up, but also to go out to local bars to hang out.
We call them trash friends. It's a unique community that you can't really get from like networking events, from like businesses, and because it's a nonprofit, because it's a volunteer experience, right?
That's the best thing about groups like Overdue. Close friendships are made while doing good for the community. For Annenberg Media, I'm Esther Quintanilla.
Late last month, 25 million residents of Shanghai went into lockdown in the midst of the worst COVID surge in that city since the epidemic began. The Chinese government is following what they call a zero COVID strategy. Life in Shanghai has become pretty harsh. Many residents struggle to meet basic necessities. Ethan Huang reports.
Since late March, about 300,000 cases have been reported in Shanghai. In response to the sudden outbreak, the Chinese government placed the city under lockdown, while using other containment measures, such as regular testing. This method of what's being called dynamic clearing kept the nation running for the past 2 years by containing several smaller outbreaks across China, with most lockdowns being in more remote regions. But the same tactics used in a major metropolitan city like Shanghai have thrown daily life into turmoil. Due to the lockdown, government-run food delivery has been overwhelmed, leading to scarcity in groceries provided to residents, including meat, vegetables, and eggs. On top of this, other needs such as medical care have been unable to be met, as some have reported hours-long ambulance wait times. Today, 3 COVID-related deaths were reported in the city. The patients were between 89 and 91. All were unvaccinated and had existing health problems. Some health officials across the globe are skeptical towards China's official numbers, But these are the first deaths in Shanghai acknowledged by the Chinese government since the start of the pandemic in March 2020. Today's developments raise into question the feasibility and sustainability of the zero-COVID strategy. The frustration of residents, exhaustion of epidemic control workers, and growing cases further highlight the anxiety plaguing the city that seemingly is stronger than the pandemic itself. For Annenberg Media, I'm Ethan Huang.
Today we have a special guest on the show, USC's Chief Sustainability Officer, Mick Dalrymple. Mick, thank you so much for being here with us.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for your interest in Earth Week.
So the single-use plastics ban only extends to cups right now. Why is that? And will the ban ultimately move to utensils, takeout containers, school supplies, etc.?
Well, the ban applies to single-use plastic beverage bottles. So that's where it's at right now. And that's really kind of the anchor place where we started, where it's going to take care of a lot of stuff. So the hospitality folks have already transitioned their food containers away from single-use plastic. So they did that before this. There's still single-use stuff that's, there's some plastic candy bar wrappers, power bar wrappers, things like that. And then also some of the vendors in the University Village are not part of this whole thing. But basically, this is kind of like a second or third step in a long road.
In the press releases, you talk about how decentralized this process is for implementing sustainable practices all over campus. So I think what we're wondering is how exactly do you gather data with everything being so decentralized on where waste comes from and how much is being reduced?
That's a really big challenge, and it's a great question. So the Zero Waste team has hired 2 waste auditors as well as a data analyst. And so that's a relatively recent hires, I would say in the last 6 to 9 months or so. So they have started gathering data on a pretty detailed basis. They aren't quite there yet, so they don't have a complete waste inventory from across campus, but they have a lot better data now, and they're monitoring and collecting data all the time so they can kind of see where the hot spots are for, a lot of waste or a lot of problems, say putting stuff in the right bins, and then tailoring programs to try and address those, and education to try and address those specific hot spots.
For my next question, I've seen these water refill stations across campus, and the sustainability website lists 211, but the sustainability map only shows 18, and I believe those are outdoors. Will USC continue to add hydration stations specifically outdoors?
I don't know what the specific plans are for where to add them, but I know just even since we started talking about this plastics initiative, that one of the colleges has asked for 2 additional water bottle filling stations at their facility. So I think they're kind of dealt with on a one-off basis by requests and by where needs are identified. So I'm not sure exactly what the discrepancy is between the map and the list, although the map just launched. And so it's possible that there's things on there that are not quite, that they don't have all the data in there yet.
And this Earth Week initiative that was just announced is part of a broader sustainability push that was really brought in by Carol Fultz since 2019. And the really big ultimate goal is carbon neutrality by 2025, which is quite ambitious. Since 2014, the campus has had a 19% decrease in greenhouse gases, but how much more do we actually have to reduce to reach that neutral benchmark in less than 3 years?
I don't have the exact tonnage right in front of me, but it's going to be a significant amount. So that's going to be happening through more energy efficiency work, as well as what's called retro commissioning, where you basically go in afterwards to make sure all the systems are operating properly and keeping them kind of tuned up, like taking your car in for a tune-up. as well as buying much more renewable energy from our utility, as well as putting solar onto campus buildings. So those are kind of our main strategies. And, a big part of this is LADWP, which is our main utility electricity supplier, has already decreased their carbon footprint significantly, and they plan to decrease it even more rapidly, very rapidly. I think that their plan is to be completely carbon neutral by 2035 in their electricity provided to us. So they're helping the situation, and then we're going to be helping the situation too. So it's nice to have multiple entities working on it at the same time.
So speaking of the parties that are working on, emission reductions and sustainability, my question is, what does it look like based on student faculty behavior versus, the structural change to operations, buildings, energy, et cetera?
Sure.
I don't know if that was clear enough or not.
Yeah, no, it's actually a question we deal with every day. So I completely understood what you were saying. For faculty and staff and students, the main deal as far as the campus's what's called scope 1 and 2 emissions is just making sure lights are turned off if there aren't automatic controls in whatever room you're in and things like that, keeping plug loads down, turning off computers, turning off equipment, turning off gaming devices when they're not being used, DVRs, all of that stuff. So housing is actually a good place for students to make an impact. But then the real impact that students, faculty, and staff can make is in their commuting choices. So, so moving to alternative modes of transportation, anything from bicycling to using the metro, any of that stuff is going to have a really dramatic impact, as well as reducing air travel. So we count university-sponsored air travel. So that mainly applies to faculty and staff. It could also apply to students going on study abroad, so that's counted as well. But then there's all the stuff that we don't really, or is counted indirectly, which is the food. So by eating lower on the food chain, eating more vegetarian and vegan meals, and less meat helps us change our food purchasing, which also reduces our footprint. So you get into some weird accounting stuff that goes there, but all of that, ultimately, the planet doesn't care how we account for it. It just cares how much CO2 is in the atmosphere. And so any of those measures are things that are really kind of more in the control of students, faculty, and staff.
That was Mick Dalrymple, Chief Sustainability Officer at USC. For all of the USC Earth Week events, go to sustainability.usc.edu. And that's all we have time for today on today's show. Val Diaz and Guillermo Guerrero produced today's show. Fernando Cienfuegos runs our soundboard. And we had help from Kylie Warden. Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
We are also streaming live on KXSC. Follow KXSC's at kxsc.org/listen. And we also stream on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News. I'm Brian Sarabia.
And I'm Taylor Mills. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for
From Where We Are. So am I going to see you at solar yoga this week?
I'm still trying to figure out exactly, number one, what that is, but also number two, how this ultimately helps with Assignment Earth.
Yeah, I hope we get an A.
Yeah, for the sake of climate change, yeah. I hope so too. Well, happy Earth Week to all of our listeners, and we will hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, don't forget to carry around your reusable water bottles. I have mine right here in the studio. Do you have yours?
Look at you. No, I'm not a